Hello, students. I welcome you all to yet another session of learning. As we have completed part 1 of the lesson The Selfish Giant, now let us move on to part 2. He saw a most wonderful sight. Through a little hole in the wall, the children had crept in and they were sitting in the branches of the trees. Crept means came secretly. In every tree that he could see, there was a little child, and the trees were so glad to have the children back again that they had covered themselves with blossoms and were waving their arms gently above the children's heads. The giant saw the most lovely sight. The children entered his garden through a little hole. They sat on the branches of the trees, and the trees started blossoming in his garden. The trees were very glad to have the children back again. The trees were covered with flowers and were waving their arms gently above the children's heads. The birds were flying about and twittering with delight, and the flowers were looking up through the green grass and laughing. So twittering is chirping. It was a lovely scene. Only in one corner it was still winter. It was the farthest corner of the garden, and in it was standing a little boy. He was so small that he could not reach up to the branches of the tree, and he was wandering all round it, crying bitterly. Bitterly means greatly. The poor tree was still covered with frost and snow, and the north wind was blowing and roaring above it. "Climb up, little boy," said the tree, and it bent its branches down as low as it could. But the boy was too tiny. Tiny means small. So now the giant also noticed that the birds were flying everywhere in his garden, and he could hear them chirping. The flowers were delighted and looked up through the green grass. Finally, the giant's garden became a cheerful place for everyone. And to his surprise, the giant noticed that there was still winter in one corner of the garden. And he also noticed that there was a small boy who was standing in front of a tree, and he was unable to reach the branches of the tree. The tree lowered its branches, but the boy was too tiny to climb it. And the giant's heart melted, and he looked out. "How selfish I have been," he said. "Now I know why the spring would not come here. I will put that poor little boy on the top of the tree, and then I will knock down the wall, and my garden shall be the children's playground forever and ever." He was really very sorry for what he had done. So melted means became soft, knocked down is pull down or destroy. Okay. So now when the giant saw that all this scene, that is the little boy, he was unable to climb the tree, his heart melted. He realized how selfish he had been in not allowing the children to play in his garden. And he also said that he now understood why the spring did not come. He would put that little boy on the top of the tree. He would also pull down the wall or destroy the wall, and his garden shall be the children's playground forever. He felt sorry for what he had done. So he crept downstairs and opened the front door quite softly and went out into the garden. But when the children saw him, they were so frightened that they all ran away, and the garden became winter again. Only the little boy did not run, for his eyes were so full of tears that he did not see the giant coming, and the giant stole up behind him and took him gently in his hands and put him up into the tree. So stole up means came quietly, gently is softly, and the tree broke at once into blossom. and the birds came and sang on it. And the little boy stretched out his arms and flung them round the giant's neck and kissed him. Stretched means extended. Flung is to through. Okay. So here what happened? The giant, he opened the front door and he went into the garden. And when the children saw the giant in the garden, they ran away. Children, why did they run away? Yes, they were very afraid of this giant. And winter would again set in his garden. So again the winter has arrived. However, the little boy did not run away on seeing the giant because his eyes were filled with tears. He was weeping and he was unable to climb the tree. So the giant gently took him in his arms and put him into the tree. The tree blossomed once again. The little boy was very happy as the giant helped him to climb the tree. So he put his arms round the giant's neck and kissed him. Then here, and the other children, when they saw that the giant was not wicked any longer, came running. So wicked means full of evil. Back, and with them came the spring. It is your garden now, little children, said the giant, and he took a great axe and knocked down the wall. And when the people were going to market at 12 o'clock, they found the giant playing with the children in the most beautiful garden they had ever seen. So the other children saw that the giant was not wicked, and they all came running back to the giant's garden. And along with them, which season came, children? Right, it's the spring season which has come along with the children. The giant told to the children that it is their garden. He took an axe and broke the wall which was around the garden, and people found giant playing in his garden. So axe is a tool. All day long they played, and in the evening they came to the giant to bid him good-bye. But where is your little companion? He said. The boy I put into the tree. The giant loved him the best because he had kissed him. We don't know, answered the children. He has gone away. You must tell him to be sure and come tomorrow, said the giant. But the children said that they did not know where he lived and had never seen him before, and the giant felt very sad. So here companion means friend. So the giant used to play with the children in his garden every afternoon. But the little boy who kissed him was never seen again. The giant enquired from the children about the little boy, but they responded saying that they had never seen him before. And the giant felt very sad as he missed the company of the little boy whom he loved the most. Every afternoon, when school was over, the children came and played with the giant. But the little boy whom the giant loved was never seen again. The giant was very kind to all the children, yet he longed for his little friend, and often spoke of him. How I would like to see him, he used to say. Years went by, and the giant grew very old and feeble. Feeble means weak. He could not play about any more, so he sat in a huge armchair and watched the children at their games and admired his garden. Admired means praised. So here, what happened next? Every afternoon, the children came to his garden after school was over and they played in the giant's garden. But the little boy whom he loved was never seen again in his garden. This giant was very kind to all the children, but giant he longed to see the little friend. Many years passed. The giant became weak and old. He watched the children playing, and he sat in a huge armchair as he couldn't play with the children. So he admired his garden, he praised his garden. I have beautiful flowers, he said, but the children are the most beautiful flowers of all. One winter morning he looked out of his window as he was dressing. He did not hate the winter now, for he knew that it was merely the spring asleep, and that the flowers were resting. Suddenly he rubbed his eyes in wonder, and looked and looked. It certainly was a marvelous sight. In the farthest corner of the garden was a tree quite covered with lovely white blossoms. Its branches were golden, and silver fruit hung down from them, and underneath it stood the little boy he had loved. So marvelous means beautiful. So the giant said that he had many beautiful flowers, but the children are the most beautiful flowers for him. One winter morning the giant suddenly rubbed his eyes and saw a beautiful scene. In one corner of his garden there stood a lovely tree with white blossoms. Its branches were golden. The little boy stood under it. Downstairs ran the giant in great joy, and out into the garden. He hastened across the grass, and came near to the child, and when he came quite close, his face grew red with anger, and he said, "Who hath dared to wound thee?" For on the palms of the child's hands were the prints of two nails, and the prints of two nails were on the little feet. "Who hath dared to wound thee?" cried the giant. "Tell me, that I may take my big sword and slay him." So here hasten refers to hurried. Hath dared is has challenged. Palms is the flat hand. Slay is kill. So the giant was very happy to see the little boy in his garden, and he noticed that the palms of the child's hands and feet had prints of two nails, and they were wounded. The giant got very angry on seeing this, and he said in anger he would slay the man with his sword who harmed the little boy. "Nay," answered the child. "Nay means no, but these are the wounds of love. Who art thou?" So who art thou means who are you? Said the giant, and a strange awe fell on him. Awe means fear. And he knelt before the little child. Who knelt, children? Yes, it is the giant. And the child smiled on the giant and said to him, "You let me play once in your garden. Today you shall come with me to my garden, which is paradise." So paradise means heaven. And when the children ran in that afternoon, they found the giant lying dead under the tree, all covered with white blossoms. White blossoms means white flowers. So here the boy replied that the wounds, or which the giant had seen, the wounds which were on his palm and on the feet, no, he said that these were the wounds of love. The giant at once asked the boy who he was, and a strange fear fell on the giant. The boy smiled, and he told the giant to come with him to his garden, and his garden was paradise, that is heaven. So the children later the children found the giant dead under the tree. He was covered with white blossoms all over his body. So here that boy, that little child who had the wound marks on his palm and on the feet, he is none other than the Christ. Okay, Jesus Christ. And he has come to his garden, and he had taken his soul along with him to paradise, or along with him to heaven. Right? So now let us know, what does this lesson teach us? That is the selfish giant. So what does it teach us, or what message the author Oscar Wilde wanted to give us? Yes, so this chapter, it gives us a message that we should not be selfish, and we should spread love and make everyone around us happy. And true love is a source of happiness. Giving happiness to others will make us feel happy in our life. Yes, isn't it, children? Yes, have you all understood? Yes. Hope you all have understood, children. Thank you.